The first thing I noticed was the sound. It came late, after the lamps had been turned down and the house had settled into its night breathing. Not footsteps. Not quite. More like the shuffle of cloth against the floor, dragging, pausing, dragging again. I lay in the narrow bed they'd given me, the one in the attic room beneath the warped beams. The walls were lined with boxes of old crockery, furniture under sheets. My position in the household was temporary: maid, cleaner, watchful presence while the master's family was away. They had left in haste, saying something about the season's damp making their child cough too much. I thought of the words they hadn't said. That no one in the village wanted to stay here after sundown. That when I took the position, the other maids had crossed themselves without thinking. The dragging sound came again. It was softer now, further down. I lit my candle. The air in the attic held a faint scent of iron, like tools left too long in the rain. I'd cleaned everything that day, scrubbed the wooden floors until my knees ached, but the smell was stronger now. At the far end of the attic was the old servant's stair, the one that went straight down to the kitchen. I leaned toward it. The dark there felt thicker. It was nothing, I told myself. Rats in the beams. Cloth settling in the night air. But I could not sleep. The next morning, the kitchen felt colder than the rest of the house. The flags beneath my feet were damp, though the weather had been dry for weeks. A narrow streak of mud, if it was mud, ran from the back door toward the pantry. Inside, I found the shelves neat as I'd left them, except for the bottom row. One jar was missing. An empty space, its outline still clean in the dust. I searched the house but found nothing. That night, I heard it again. The same dragging, but now, something else with it. A faint tapping, irregular, like fingers against the floor. I thought about the back door. It had an iron bolt, heavy and stiff. I checked it before I went upstairs. It was fastened. I remember that clearly. Still, in the small hours, the cold came up the stairs. Not wind, cold that seemed to seep from the wood itself. The dragging stopped beneath my room. I did not dare move. My candle had gone out on its own. When morning came, I went down to find the pantry's second shelf disturbed. Another jar gone. A faint smear led across the flagstones, disappearing beneath the kitchen table. I told myself I would look, truly look, next time. By the third night, I kept the candle lit, the box of matches close. The sounds began earlier, before the clock struck midnight. Drag, tap, drag, tap, and then, breathing. I held still, though my fingers ached from gripping the blanket. The breathing came from just beyond my door. Slow, uneven. Like someone trying not to be heard. The knob turned. Only a fraction. But enough for me to see, in the faint light, that the wood around the keyhole was darker, as if damp. The breathing stopped. I did not sleep at all. At first light, I went down to the pantry. 3 jars missing now. Each gap lower than the last, as though something were moving upward shelf by shelf. The streaks on the floor were darker. I crouched to touch one. It was not mud. It was tacky, with a faint smell of copper. That evening, I bolted the attic door from the inside. I sat on the bed with my back to the wall, listening. When the sound came, it was no longer cautious. Drag, tap, closer and closer up the servant's stair. The cold spread until my breath misted in front of me. Something pressed against the other side of the attic door. Not a knock. More like a shoulder, testing the wood. And then, through the thin gap at the bottom, a line of damp spreading slowly, seeping inward. I do not know how long I sat there, but at some point, the pressure left. The cold remained. I could hear movement below, in the kitchen. A heavy thud, like a body lowering itself to the floor. Then silence. When I gathered the courage to descend, the pantry door stood open. The shelves were bare. Every jar, gone. I left that morning, before the sun had fully risen, walking until the house was out of sight. 2 weeks later, I passed through the village and heard that the family had returned. They'd stayed only one night. The servants refused to speak of what they'd found in the pantry. Only one of them told me anything, quietly, as if she feared the words themselves might be overheard. She said the family's son had gone to fetch a jar of preserves for breakfast. They found him sitting on the kitchen floor, the empty jar broken in his hands. His mouth, she said, was stained the color of rust.